Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tom Shipka. I served for 37 years as professor of philosophy, including the last 20 as chair of the Department of Philosophy and Religious Studies. It's a pleasure to be with you here today and to welcome Mr. James Tressel as the 9th president of Youngstown State University. As we start today's recognition, I ask that you please stand for the presentation of the colors by the YSU Army Reserve Officers Training Corps Color Card and remain standing for the national anthem performed by student Sierra McCorvey of the Dana School of Music.
Say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming? The rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please be seated. Thank you, Ms. McCorvey, the YSU ROTC Color Guard, and the YSU faculty musicians. At this time, I would like to welcome certain distinguished groups in the audience. I would ask that each group stand as they are called. Please hold your applause until all groups are called. Presidents and delegates from Ohio and Pennsylvania institutions, please stand. The Ohio Board of Regents, campus union presidents, the Alumni Society board members, the Student Government Association, and former trustees and former student trustees. May we have a round of applause for these folks. I want to thank all of the students, faculty, staff, alumni, and community members who are joining us for this celebration today. Please join me in a round of applause as a show of appreciation for their support. I would now like to recognize the trustees. Would you please rise individually as I call your names and remain standing until all on stage have been introduced. Please hold your applause until all have been called. Dolores Crawford, Community Affairs Director at WKBN. David Dybel, owner and president of Boardman Steel. Sundarshan Garg, physician and president of Blood and Cancer Incorporated. Jim Green, retired Comco Industries executive. John Jacobek, anesthesiologist at the Bell Park Anesthesia Associates Incorporated and St. Elizabeth Boardman Health Center. Harry Michel, former state senator. Ted Roberts, principal of the law firm Roth, Blair, Roberts, Strassfield, and Lodge. Leonard Chavone, partner and treasurer of Friedman and Rummel Company and president of Metro Land Title Agency. One trustee is missing. Carol Weimer, who is our newly elected chair, had to miss today's event due to a family emergency. Also, our student trustees, Bryce Miner and Eric Shahadi. And finally, the secretary to the YSU Board of Trustees, Franklin Bennett, Deputy General Counsel at Stiefel, Nicholas and Company. Round of applause, please. For remarks representing the student body of YSU, join me in welcoming Eric Shahadi, YSU student trustee. Eric?
Good afternoon, and thank you, Dr. Shipka. I was excited when Jim Tressel was named the 9th president of Youngstown State University. And as it turns out, I wasn't alone. And the only way I really knew this was because when I posted a picture of Jim Tressel and me on Facebook, ladies and gentlemen, it got more likes than anything I'd ever posted. Jim Tressel is without a doubt a recognizable name and face in the state of Ohio. But that's not the only strength he brings to his presidency. We all know it's a challenging time in higher education. It's a time when universities need, now more than ever, to work with all actors in their communities, local school districts, local state and federal government, businesses and nonprofits, even churches and community groups. We now have an excellent asset in this task ahead of us, President Jim Tressel. We know that President Tressel brings an expertise in building and maintaining relationships, but I am confident in President Tressel's ability to build a bright future for this university by mobilizing relationships and cultivating new partnerships, partnerships that will not only bolster the university, but the education it is able to provide to its students. And I see a lot of students here today. Students, rest assured that President Tressel is committed to our success. He is dedicated not only to increasing our success in the classroom, but also after we move our tassels across our caps at graduation, become alumni, move on into careers in our futures. At the University of Akron, President Tressel spearheaded many programs and initiatives as Vice President of Student Success, and there is no doubt that increasing our success is one of the primary goals of his presidency. In the few short months I've had to work with President Tressel, he has demonstrated not only a breadth of knowledge and unrivaled life experiences, but a will to succeed and an enthusiastic attitude like no other. Ladies and gentlemen, we know that Youngstown State University is at a crossroads, not unlike any other place of higher education. We have to not only be creative and flexible, but challenge the status quo. It is my firmest belief that President Tressel will not only demonstrate the leadership that this university needs, but the leadership that this university, that this community, that the Mahoning Valley and beyond deserves. Please join me in It's been my honor and my pleasure to offer remarks today on behalf of the students, but please join me in congratulating the 9th president of Youngstown State University. Welcome home, President Tressel. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Please enjoy a musical selection by Sierra McCorvey and the Dana Faculty Brass Quintet.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the ocean, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains, through the prairies, to the ocean, white with foam. Oh, God bless America, my home, sweet home. Oh, God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Thanks again to Sierra and the Dana Faculty Brass Quintet. John Kasich is a graduate of the Ohio State University. He was elected to the Ohio Senate at the age of 26, the youngest person ever elected to that august body. He subsequently served 9 terms in the House of Representatives in Washington, winning each time by huge margins. He has served as a TV host and commentator. He has worked in the investment industry, and in 2010, he was elected governor of the state of Ohio. He is currently seeking a second term. Please join me in welcoming John Kasich, governor of the state of Ohio.
Thank you. I think I made a good selection in Eric, didn't I? Give that young man another great round of applause. I'm thrilled to be here today. Faculty, how are you? I'm thrilled to be here with the board. And I'm thrilled to be here with Ellen Tressel. Stand up, Ellen. You're the one going to take all the heat. Stand up. I can tell, Ellen, you married a much older man. It's great to be here in Youngstown. What an honor. I was invited by Jim Tressel a couple months ago, and I was really kind of surprised and shocked that he would have thought about me. And Jim, I told a lot of my friends today that I was going to be here on what is really an amazing day, an amazing personal journey for a remarkable man when you think about it, ladies and gentlemen. You know, Jim was not born here. He was born in Cleveland area. I happen to know a lot about Youngstown, Y-Town as I like to call it, because I grew up just on the other side of the border, right over there in McKees Rocks. And I understand the values, the population, the ethnicity, the hopefulness, the values of people who live here in the valley. Jim Tressel carries all those same values that people who live in Youngstown and all these regions of blue-collar, hard-working, God-fearing, it's the same values that connect us together. It knits us together. You know, I think about Youngstown, and I think about the great history of Youngstown, like so many of our great, iconic manufacturing centers. 100 years ago, this town was the third fastest growing community in the nation. It was the second most influential in terms of attracting immigrants. My name is Kosic, some say. My father, we think, was Austrian-Hungarian, but we're not really ever quite sure, and we're never quite sure of how to spell it. My mother was a Vukovic, and we have a number of those people on the board today. The ethnic time, whose parents and grandparents came from Europe to find hope and opportunity in places like Youngstown, Ohio. We were booming. The population was growing by leaps and bounds, and it was an exciting, wonderful town. You know, over time, we all witnessed the heartbreak of the downturn. I remember as a young aide working in the legislature, the loss of the steel mill here, and as a young boy, and as I grow older, the loss of some of the steel industry even near my own hometown. And we experienced this downturn, but what's so interesting about it is I don't think we ever lost the hope. We never lost the promise of a better tomorrow. Now, the downturn is over. The struggle has been won, and Youngstown, precious Youngstown, is on its way back in unbelievable ways, and isn't it exciting, ladies and gentlemen? We've seen significant decreases in unemployment, and when you drive around the community, those signs are back in the windows, now hiring. And you know, when we think about some of the businesses that we have here in Youngstown now, V&M Star Steel, a giant foreign investment that have decided to cast part of their fate right here in the valley. How about Lordstown, producer of the most popular car in America? Thank God GM believes in the workers and the people who live in this valley. Exterran is a reflection of the potential fantastic opportunities in shale gas that could involve advanced materials and polymers, of which Youngstown State should be a very important part of, or network systems. You know, we're no longer just about making things, and that's a part of who we are. That's part of our DNA. But we don't just make things anymore. Now the thought process works as reflected in network systems, which is an advanced information technology company. See, we're starting to hit on all cylinders, and I think it's happening because of the character of the people who never lost hope. In a lot of ways, the history of Youngstown is the life story of Jim Tressel. Growing up in the Cleveland area, attending college there, and he found his way to Youngstown, transformed the athletic department, and then becomes the coach and wins title after title after title after title. And everybody is, in other parts of the state, who the heck is this Jim Tressel and what is going on at Youngstown State? And he had his great success and made his mark. And then Ohio State came calling. Down in Columbus, well, I mean, what do? Hire this coach from Youngstown State? What do they know about football? Well, only 4 titles. And then Jim Tressel comes to Ohio State. I don't know if it was 6 or 7 Big Ten football championships, but I remember, and you all remember, that great victory in Florida, where we won the national title on a guy who said was the reincarnation of Woody Hayes. Jim Tressel became a beloved figure in Columbus and all across this state. But we all know that victory has its challenges. And Jim Tressel faced his. Must have been difficult that day in Columbus for Ellen and Jim, and Ellen's parents are here today. Difficult adversity could have made most people crumble, give it up, run and hide. But not Jim Tressel. He goes to Akron, and he has a jolt of electricity into that entire university, working with students and advancing their cause and advancing that university and raising money and bringing a freshness, a newness, and an energy to the University of Akron that frankly really amazed people. Am I right, Ellen? Really amazed people. And then the glorious day came. President of Youngstown State, the rise again of Jim Tressel. And the people of this community, the leaders in this community, demanded that Jim Tressel come home, demanded that Jim Tressel come back here and interject that same energy and integrity and spark right here in Youngstown State. I'm told that Tim Ryan deserves some of the credit, Mr. President, for your appointment here. The business community, all were involved in saying, we want Jim Tressel back. You know, I know about the fact that in the wee hours of the morning or the late hours of the night, somebody would be laying in a hospital bed, a university hospital. No car, no security, no announcements, no cameras, no newspapers, no television, just a visit from the coach to a family in their most difficult times. He did it. I know he did it. I've heard the testimonies. Kelly Palmer, she was a cheerleader here at Youngstown State. Do you remember her? Coach, do you remember her? She said he brought a new energy to Youngstown State when he was here. Do you remember Ron Strollo? Oh, we all remember Ron, huh? You know what he said? They had a dinner at some place. They had some steaks and some chicken and some hot dogs, and they thought they were going home. Coach put them on a bus. They went to the Boy Scout camp. He put a tent in every one of their hands. Most of them didn't know what to do with it, but they learned quickly. They erected the tents, and then the football players, the heroes of our sons and daughters, gave them a leadership lecture about what it means to be a leader. Antonio Smith, you remember him, Coach? He was up and down and in and out of your doghouse. Antonio Smith said, I learned about redemption from Jim Tressel. Oh, he preached redemption, and then he gave me redemption. It's funny, what goes around comes around, isn't it? Remember Roy Hall? Roy Hall said, the Lord was first in Coach Tressel's life. Seek God, seek the Lord, and all else will be delivered unto you. A young man at Ohio State, a leader on that team, it's a lesson we all can learn each and every day. Tony Dungy, Jim Tressel grows men, and he also grows role models. Boy, don't we need that in our society, in our culture, and in our communities today. Youngstown, this can be a great moment because we've got somebody back here who's a doer, who has integrity, who has energy, who has vision, who understands teamwork. No room for turf, no room for fighting. You see, the sun is coming up in Youngstown again, but it's not reached its zenith. It's not in the midday sky, it's rising. And you can just wake up in the morning and think about the coach, the president, pushing as hard as he can that sun to the middle of the sky. I love this town because I love what it represents. It represents the best of us, the best of America, the best of the values that our grandparents and our parents fought for when they got out of those barges and crawled in that water and crawled on those beaches to preserve our country. That's what Tressel's all about. Yes, Youngstown's coming back. And now we've got a jolt, we've got energy, we've got the leadership and the vision we need to restore the greatness of this community, the greatness of this region, and the greatness of the state of Ohio. Jim Tressel, Ellen Tressel, good luck, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Governor Kasich. It's my pleasure to call forward Attorney Leonard Chavone, Vice Chair of the YSU Board of Trustees. Len?
Good afternoon, and I want to give a special thanks to the person who put me after the governor. On behalf of the Youngstown State University Board of Trustees, I extend our warmest greetings to all of you for joining us today in this special occasion in the university's history. It's said that there's an old curse that goes, "May you live in interesting times." Well, these are indeed interesting times in higher education. Financial pressures are well documented. Technology is changing the way educational services are delivered. Competition from around the corner and across the globe is on the rise. These are equally interesting times for Youngstown State University. 7 months ago today, when the Board of Trustees entered the process of searching for a new university president, we were all well aware that this president, whoever it might be, would be confronted with a set of challenges unlike any faced by the institution's 8 previous chief executives. It would be a time for fresh ideas, for someone who could quickly assess, boldly step forward, win support, effectively communicate, think outside the box, and set a vision for the campus and our community. A tall order that we placed on the search firm indeed. As searches go for such positions, our timeline was relatively short and the search process was aggressive. And our expectations were very, very high. At about the same time, Jim Tressel was fully engaged in his duties as Executive Vice President for Student Success at the University of Akron. In 2 short years at Akron, Jim proved his abilities as a university administrator that were matched only by his success on the playing field. And Jim and Ellen, as always, were open and looking for a next step on their journey. Whether you're a university trustee looking for a new president or a university administrator looking for a new university, the key is finding the right match, the right fit. And there's no question that that's what we have with Jim and Ellen Tressel. In the few weeks since they arrived on campus and moved into the Pollock House, there's been a palpable excitement in the air at the university and throughout the community. This is incredibly wide, diverse, and overwhelming support for this new presidency. We feel fortunate to welcome Jim and Ellen back as members of the YSU community. The Tressels are passionate about education and the Mahoning Valley. Jim believes in the power of education to lift people up. He's committed to ensuring that the opportunity of education is accessible to all and affordable by all. He's a proven leader. He works hard. Boy, does he work hard. He enjoys young people. He loves his job. And above all, he is dedicated to making Youngstown State University a place where students can pursue and reach their professional goals and personal dreams. Welcome, Jim, and thank you all for being here. And I'm not quite done. I'd like to call Attorney Franklin Bennett to administer the oath of office to Jim Tressel. Mr. Tressel, would you please stand? Franklin?
Good afternoon, Mr. Tressel. Good afternoon, sir. Would you please raise your right hand and repeat after me? I, James P. Tressel,
I, James P. Tressel,
promise and swear to support
promise and swear to support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and to faithfully discharge the duties
and to faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of President of Youngstown State University,
of the office of President of Youngstown State University,
to which I have been appointed by its Board of Trustees.
to which I have been appointed by its Board of Trustees.
This I shall do as I answer unto God.
This I shall do as I answer unto God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
Not quite. By virtue of the authority vested in me by the state of the University Board of Trustees, I commit to you this presidential medallion and place it over your shoulders as the seal of the university, the symbol of the high office which you now hold. It is with our fullest confidence that we look to you as the leader of this fine institution, with all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities pertaining thereto. I now present to you President Tressel, ninth President of Youngstown State University.
Thank you. Governor Kasich, thank you so much for spending time in our valley and sharing this day with all of us. It's with a great deal of gratitude and humility that I accept this wonderful representation of what this institution means to this valley and to the people who have passed through these halls and lived in this valley. Quite often I think about the fact that how blessed I was to have been born to the parents of Lee and Eloise Tressel. I don't know how I was blessed in that way. My dad served higher education for most of his life. My mom passed 1 year ago today, or 13 years ago today, excuse me. And both of them taught my brothers and I that leadership is not a position that you hold, but it's action that you take to serve others. And then they demonstrated that each and every day in their lives. Every day as they served the students that they served for so many years. They were such great role models that my two older brothers chose to go and serve others in education. My oldest brother just retired in June after about 44 years, 40 of which spent in higher education. My middle brother Dave is here today, and he served 37 years serving young people at the middle school age, and now he's serving on the Board of Education. He should have his head examined. But that's what we were taught, is that it's about serving others. And that's why we were put on this earth. And I appreciate so much all of the friends that are here, and mentors and colleagues and folks that have made up so many of the great blessings of our life. It's amazing. Dr. Holbrook is here. Where's Dr. Holbrook? Dr. Holbrook, stand up. Dr. Karen Holbrook was our president at Ohio State when we were there. How about a hand for Dr. Holbrook? She came on the scene at Ohio State shortly after my mom passed and reminded me, as my mom did all those years, that what's most important is that you carry yourself with class. And that's what Dr. Holbrook did every day at Ohio State. And Governor Kasich talked about the 2 years we had a chance to spend at the University of Akron, and some of my Akron colleagues are here, and I can't thank them enough for what they provided this newbie in higher education. They were extraordinary. Then, of course, it's the entire Valley family, hearing from so many people, friends and faculty and staff and alumni, and it's been extraordinary. And having my personal family here, and Ellen and Whitney and Carly's husband Adam, and for them to be here is special. And I think about the 38 years of former students that I've had, and one of my colleagues, Candace Campbell-Jackson from the University of Akron, every time my phone would ring when I was in a meeting there, and it was often, she would remind me that I had the largest non-paid consulting firm in America. and I enjoyed every single one of those calls. But you know, probably as I think about the role modeling my parents did and the blessings of my brothers and all of those things, you always have those moments in your life that someone needs to make a difference. And so often it's a teacher or a pastor or a faculty member or somebody. And in my life, it was as a junior in college, and I was majoring in education, and the discussions were that there just weren't that many opportunities out there, and I was starting to question, is this really what I should be doing? And I'll never forget sitting with Dr. French, and Dr. French was one of my professors, and she said, as I was bemoaning what the future might look like, she said to me, and I'll never forget it, I was a junior and it was in the winter time, and she said, you know, if you get really, really good at what you do and you put other people first, there's going to be something for you. You've got to believe that. And that was the moment that I reminded myself from that point on that that was the deal. We've got to get better and better and better at everything we do. Put others first, and we'll be fine. Hence, on the installation program and all over my office, there's a phrase entitled Macte Virtute, and it's a Latin phrase. It was shared with us from one of my mentors, Dr. Patrick Spurgeon, who's here today, Doc Spurgeon somewhere, and he shared with us after we were the national champions in 1991 here at YSU. He said, you've got to make sure you understand that just because you won the championship doesn't mean that you don't have to raise your level. In fact, you have to raise it even higher. And he gave us that Latin phrase to live by, Macte Virtute, increase your merit, increase your excellence. And in my mind, that's what it's all about. When we first got here in 1986, I remember going to Dr. Shipka, and I remember saying to him, and I didn't know him that well, and he seemed like a friendly guy, and I went to Dr. Shipka and I said, okay, we've got this new staff here, and we're excited, and we have goals, and we're just getting ready to go out and recruit students to come to the university. What is it that we should be talking about? Share with us some of our great programs so that when we're sitting in someone's living room, we can tell them why they really need to consider Youngstown State. So he put together a big seminar for us, and he brought in faculty, and he brought in folks from different programs and so forth. And he instructed us as to all of the wonderful things that Youngstown State had to offer. And then we took off recruiting, taking the good news of Doc Shipka out to share with students as to why they would want to be a part of this great university. So since I've been here the last 13 weeks, I asked our deans for just a few things that I could remind especially our students and maybe reinforce with our faculty and friends so that we can make sure we understand the level of excellence that we do have. And we understand we have to increase our excellence, we know that. But sometimes we have to remind ourselves of our excellence. So I asked the deans to each write down 9 little things that would be fun to talk about. Well, as most great writers, the deans had 50 things within those 9 that they thought we should talk about with our new students, remind our faculty, remind our staff, remind the great folks that love YSU. And so, deans, I apologize, I can't give all the great things that you talked about, so don't be mad at me. The governor took most of my time anyway. So I'm just going to give you a few. Those of you that are students in our College of Liberal Arts and Social Sciences, I wanted to make sure you knew some of the excellence that we've got going on here at YSU. In geography, 2 recent graduates are employed working for the FAA plotting flight paths in and out of Dulles Airport, and the CIA writing briefs for the Office of the President, right from our YSU halls. In philosophy and religious studies, a recent religious studies graduate named Carl Dabney entered YSU uncertain and lacking some academic confidence, and he's now a successful graduate student at Harvard. Ashley Orr, who's a dual major in economics and math, supported by the Joseph Carson Scholarship, spent the summer with research economists at the Federal Reserve Bank in Cleveland. Dr. Paul Sarasik, who I saw here earlier today, has increased YSU's worldwide recognition through his Fulbright Scholar at the University of Tokyo and State Department-sponsored lectures on Ohio as a swing state in the upcoming elections. And I'm only going to give you one more class, college, because you've got about 60 others on here. But in sociology, anthropology, and gerontology, Dr. Matt Omansky has engaged more than 100 students and volunteers in archaeological research locally and internationally in Guatemala, San Salvador, Israel, and China. Those of you young students that are in class and those of you that are a part of that class team, there's excellence all over. Now, Betty Jo Licata gave me 400 things, somehow fit into 9 bullet points, so I had to kind of underline them. But in terms of how our students are engaged, she mentioned that 426 students completed 87 projects for the regional business community. And 42 students and volunteers completed more than 1,000 tax returns as a part of a voluntary income tax assistance program. In the College of Business, internships, and I know the governor talks to us as presidents all the time about getting our students out there and getting internships and getting relevant learning and all the rest. More than 130 business students completed paid credit-bearing internships. 36% of our BSBA graduates completed at least one prior to graduation. She mentioned that our business programs are accredited by the AACSB International, the highest level of business school accreditation. Less than 5% of all business schools in the world have earned that accreditation. I'm only going to give you one more, Betty Jo. I'm sorry. One of our students, Richard Wetzel, recently won $2,000 first place award in the Ohio Penn Business Plan competition for his Concept Pro cover, which uses selective laser sintering and 3D scanning technology to produce custom prosthetic limb covers for amputees. We've got extraordinary things going in our College of Business. In our College of Creative Arts and Communication, Dean DuPoy reminded us that over 40,000 patrons annually take part in watching our students perform, and that our Dana School of Music, most of you may know, sometimes we need to remind ourselves of that excellence, is it's the 6th oldest school of music in the nation, 145 continuous years. The Dana School of Music Student Wind Ensemble released its 7th CD since 1998, Old Wine in New Bottles. And he reminded us that we have some architectural gems on this YSU campus, including the McDonough, and of course, we're blessed to have the Butler Museum of North American Art right in our footprint. And he goes on and on. I'll give you one more, Dr. Dean DePoy, and that's it. I got to move here. Dana School graduate Sean Jones received his Bachelor of Music at YSU. He is one of today's leading jazz musicians, actively tours worldwide. He also serves as the chair of the brass area at the Berklee College of Music, and he serves as the lead trumpet with the Lincoln Center Jazz Orchestra in New York City. I'll give you one more, Dean, because I like this one here. Some of the young people might. Jonathan Yurko is a stunt performer and member of the Screen Actors Guild, has worked on movies such as The Avengers, Old Fashioned, The Wind is Watching, Fun Size, and Miss Meadows. And Dean DePoy has a bunch more as well. Dean Howell shared a number of points of pride and examples of excellence in regards to our Beagley College of Education. He mentioned that the Youngstown Student Education Association, which is hosted by the Beagley College of Education, is one of the largest and most active student chapters in the entire state. That the local chapter of Chi Sigma Iota, the Counseling Honor Society, received the National Outstanding Chapter Award for its professional activities, including organizing a day-long summit on leadership and advocacy. He mentioned that the students who complete the Beagley College of Education teacher preparation programs consistently register outstanding performance on state licensure with 100% passage rate recorded on the two most recent state performance reports, and that all of our education programs are accredited by the national accreditations. And for the folks here in the Valley, 86% of the teachers in Mahoning County and 74% of the teachers in Trumbull County are YSU grads. And in our Batante College of Health and Human Services, the most recent board passage rate for our nursing students was 97%. And the Master of Social Work program has admitted over 30 new students for 3 consecutive years in admission cycles, and have great relationships with some of our colleagues that are delegates today, LCCC, Lakeland Community College, and beyond. The Batante College of Health and Human Services has a major footprint in the workforce development, and I've talked to some of our folks how that has got to become an even bigger footprint as we go forward to serve the healthcare needs of our entire valley. And lastly, even though he has about 20 others, Youngstown State University's forensic science was the first baccalaureate degree in forensic science in the state of Ohio. And lastly, our STEM college, our School of Technology and Science and Technology, Engineering and Mathematics. We've all heard of the tremendous opportunity we got from Siemens Corporation, where we received life cycle management software and training valued at $440 million for our students. And the YSU mathematics majors won 6 awards as part of the 2014 National Summer Mathematics Meeting. That was part of, you did that, right, Eric? Eric was part of that. YSU Engineering is ranked by U.S. News and World Report 45th out of 203 engineering programs. 79 Youngstown State University STEM students completed summer internships from New York to Hawaii. And while Dean Abraham gave me a bunch more, I'll only give you one more here because they told me I had to sit down after about 15 minutes. Paul Sandstrom, Research and Development Fellow at Goodyear Tire and Rubber, earned his BS in chemistry from YSU, was named the most prolific inventor in Northeast Ohio with over 280 180 U.S. patents. We've got extraordinary excellence at Youngstown State, and sometimes we have to remind ourselves of the excellence of our students and our faculty and our staff and our graduates and so forth, but we also have to remind ourselves that even though we've been champions, we have to raise the bar. We have to increase our excellence. And that even though these are challenging times, like nearly every speaker has talked about when they've come to the podium, if we raise our excellence, we'll be able to handle those challenging times. I know when we came here back in the mid-'80s, we talked to our young people about the fact that if we are going to do extraordinary things, things that have never been done before, we're going to have to first and foremost dream a little bit and set extraordinary goals, goals that no one would believe. Oh, you can't win a national championship, or oh, this is a high school football town, or oh, no one will come to your games, they never have. But you've got to set goals and dreams that are way beyond what's ever been done. And get a plan together and a blueprint, and everyone's got to be a part of the plan and the blueprint. It can't be just somebody handing it to us. It's got to be every one of us. Our community's got to be involved. Our board's got to be involved. Our faculty, our staff, our students. We've got to come up with a plan and a blueprint and dreams and goals. And then we got to work. We've got to work. We've got to work. We've got to work. The great ones that I've been around have extraordinary work ethic. If you want a place in the sun, expect some blisters. That's just the way it is. We've got to work. And then we've got to make sure we understand that we're going to have to handle adversity along the way. There are going to be tough times. There's going to be things that didn't go the way we wanted them to go. There are going to be things that we didn't plan for, things that we wish didn't happen. We're going to have to handle that. And there's also going to be successes that we've got to handle. We've got to make sure that that nasty word of complacency never creeps in to anything we're doing. We've got to be satisfied enough to be happy, but we've got to be dissatisfied enough to keep working and want to get better. And then lastly, we've got to have a faith and belief that this is, as the governor said, an exciting and extraordinary moment for this valley, for this region, for this state, for this university. We have to believe that. Because no matter how good the plan is, how hard we work, how well we handle the ups and downs, if we don't believe deep down in our hearts that it's going to happen, then it won't. And we have to believe in one another. We have to appreciate one another. And the last thing that I'll share is that on our crest, there are two other Latin words, animus liberatus, freeing our mind. And that's critical. We have to free our mind of any limitations that we've ever put in our mind. We've got to make sure that we do the most difficult thing that it is for any human being, and that's we've got to liberate our mind from thinking about what we individually need and think solely on what we collectively need. That's what I learned from my parents. That's why, in my mind, they were extraordinary human beings, because their minds were truly free. That it was about others, and that leadership is an action that you take to serve others. And I pledge to you that we'll work hard, we'll plan together, we'll handle our ups and downs, and we've got to believe. And we'll make sure that we take care of one another. God bless all of you, and go Penguins.
All hail to thee, O Youngstown, our the sunlight and stars shine. We see thee in all thy glory, the red and the white, thy glorious colors, every risen hold them high to the breeze as a symbol of our most loyal allegiance. This anthem, O Youngstown, our pledge of trust shall be, that thy sons and daughters shall keep